Once upon a time, there lived a cranky old mad scientist named Ebenezer Scrooge, who only cared about money and world domination. I actually prefer that people call me Dr. Carlos von Science! But everything else you said is correct, yes. It was Christmas Eve, and Scrooge was working late in his lab. Soon I will perfect my secret plan, and then I will be the richest mad scientist in the world! Just then, a very cheerful person entered. Scrooge turned around. It was his niece. Merry Christmas, Uncle. Ah, humbug. Christmas? A humbug, Uncle? I'm sure you don't mean that. I most certainly do. What's the point of Christmas, anyway? Well, it's time for family. A time to be grateful for what you have and generous to those who are less fortunate. Sounds like codswallop to me. Won't you come spend Christmas with us, Uncle? I will not! I'm working on a very secret plan that will make me a very rich man. I don't have time for Christmas. Leave me alone. Scrooge's niece left the lab. And Scrooge went next door to where his assistant, Bob Cratchit, was working away. Cratchit? Yes, Mr. Scrooge? I suppose you're gonna want tomorrow off work, is that right? If that's all right, sir. It is not all right. Do you think it's easy to take over the world, Cratchit? Giant lasers don't just build themselves, you know. I will expect you to work overtime all next week to make up for the time lost. Of course, Mr. Scrooge. Scrooge was all alone in his massive house, and he went to sit by the fire. As he sat, he thought of his old business partner, Jacob Marley, who had died many years ago. Good old Jacob, he never cared about Christmas, and look how rich he was when he died. Now that is a life well lived. I wouldn't say that, Ebenezer Scrooge. Who's there? It is me, Scrooge. In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley. Scrooge was scared and confused. But what are you doing here? I've come to warn you, Scrooge. My whole life I was unkind and stingy. I only cared about our evil laboratory, taking over the world and making money. I never did anything that wasn't selfish. And now I'm forced to wander through this world forever. I'm never at peace. But what do you mean that you're here to warn me? There's still hope for you, Scrooge. Tonight, you will be visited by 3 ghosts. Expect the first tomorrow when the bell strikes 1. And with that, Marley disappeared. Scrooge was very perplexed. I think I must have been standing too close to my giant death ray again. My brain must be a bit fried. Scrooge went to bed, and he tried to sleep, but he just lay awake worrying. I'm not worrying. You're worrying. Well, why are you even narrating my life? It's weird. Just then, the clock struck 1, and a small figure appeared in the room. Hello? Who are you? I am the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost said. Then she scolded Scrooge. Well, don't just stand there. Come on. I'm trying to impart some seasonal wisdom here. Suddenly, they were transported back in time. But this is the house that I grew up in. And that's me. That's right, said the ghost. And Scrooge watched himself playing with one of the other kids from his neighborhood. You weren't always as miserable as you are now, Scrooge. Look, you're actually having fun. The children faded away, but in their place was a woman that Scrooge recognized. Belle? But this is Belle, my first and only love. I love Ebenezer Scrooge, but it's clear that he loves money and death rays more than me. I think it's time for us to go our separate ways. Please, ghost! I don't want to see any more. Why do you torture me? In a flash, Scrooge was back home, safe in his bed. The ghost was gone. But just then, the clock struck 1 again, and Scrooge looked around, bewildered. Hello? Is someone there? It is me, the ghost of Christmas present. Where are you taking me? To the home of your assistant, Bob Cratchit. Come with me. Scrooge found himself looking into a small house packed with Bob Cratchit's many children. He noticed that one of the children looked very sick indeed. Ghost? What's wrong with that boy? Tiny Tim? He is very sick. But the family can't afford proper medical care because you pay Bob Cratchit so little money. Well, I pay the bare minimum that I'm required to by law, and I don't see why I should have to pay any more than that. What's the worst that could happen? If nothing changes, the boy will die, said the ghost. This gave Scrooge pause, and he began to feel guilty. But surely he can just go to a doctor. In some countries, he would be able to, yes. But in many countries, good health care is only available to those with money. Scrooge thought about this uncomfortably. Then all of a sudden, Scrooge was back in his bed, and the clock struck one once more. Is someone there? Scrooge asked, thinking he knew the answer. A ghostly figure stood next to his bed. You must be the ghost of Christmas yet to come, said Scrooge. The ghost did not say a word, and Scrooge was scared. Suddenly, they were standing in a graveyard. There were two people nearby, and Scrooge heard one of them ask, "Why do I never see anyone visit this grave?" Heh, it belongs to old Ebenezer Scrooge. He was a selfish old man who never gave a hoot about anyone. Who would ever visit his grave? Ghost! They're talking about me! The ghost didn't reply, and Scrooge broke down in tears. I can change, ghost, please! I've seen the error of my ways, and I'll change! I'll be a good mad scientist! I'll destroy my death ray! I'll donate all my uranium to charity! The ghost still said nothing, and slowly the graveyard disappeared. Scrooge awoke in his bedroom and leapt out of bed. What day is it? Scrooge cried, and he ran to the window. You there, child, what day is it? Today? Why, sir, it's Christmas Day. Quick, run to the nearest Whole Foods and buy me the biggest mushroom Wellington you can find, with all the trimmings. If you're back in half an hour, I'll tip you an entire Bitcoin. And with that, the child was off like a shot. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit, Scrooge said to himself. It'll be twice the size of Tiny Tim. And later that day, Scrooge went to spend Christmas with his niece, who was very pleased to see him. No plotting world domination today? Who am I, Jeff Bezos? No, today is Christmas. It's a day for spending time with family, being grateful for what you have, and generous with those who are less fortunate. The next day, Bob Cratchit arrived at his desk 2 hours early to start making up the time he'd taken off for Christmas. Scrooge rushed up to him and said, Cratchit, I won't stand for you coming in so early in the morning. You should be spending more time with your family. Sir? I mean it, Cratchit. I want you to work from home whenever you need to. In this day and age, the laboratory of a mad scientist can offer very flexible working hours. And I hope you'll take advantage of our company's new paternity leave program and on-site nursery. I'm confused. I'm turning over a new leaf, Cratchit. I've also given you a pay rise and a share in the company profits. I don't know what to say. You deserve it, Cratchit, and a Merry Christmas to you. And Scrooge kept his word. Tiny Tim received the medical care he needed, and Scrooge campaigned for universal health care for everyone. From then on, it was always said of Scrooge that he knew how to treat others fairly and with kindness.